Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Dirty Decibels podcast. My name is Jeff, and tonight on the show, I'm hanging out with Oh the Humanity. Well, two of the members of Oh the Humanity, Kevin and Chris, are with us tonight. And how you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Wonderful.
I'm okay. I'm in a decent mood tonight.
Cool.
The moods vary from night to night quite a bit.
I feel that.
This past year, yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you guys both been like? Do you guys work from home during the day, or do you guys both still kind of go to a workplace, or what's your like what's
home.
your pandemic
all the time been? All day, every day, home, always home.
I don't go anywhere, don't do anything. That's a lie. I do some things, but I spend way too much time in my home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need to not be in it.
It's been the case with all of us. Oh the Humanity is celebrating the release of their most recent full-length record. It's a self-titled record, and it's out today everywhere, available on their Bandcamp, which is awesome. This record rips. You guys have done every single record you've done has been at Q Division, correct?
Yep. Everything we've recorded. We did with the exception of the split we did with the Hideout, the basics were done at that studio that Converse hosted for a while down in the city where they were doing that Rubber Tracks program.
Rubber Tracks, yeah.
Yeah. So we did the basics there, and Sean from Q, who's done all our stuff, actually came to that session and then brought the tracks from that session back to Q, and then we finished everything up at Q.
Cool.
So
that's
so
cool.
Still Q adjacent, but yeah, those two songs. So yeah, we finished tracking the 5-song EP, and then we got the email about Rubber Tracks, and we're like, oh, we have to write 2 more songs to go do Rubber Tracks.
We just recorded all of the songs we have, but I feel like I need to give a little props and shout out to Brian Davis though, because if you remember, we did do that demo with him like way back when we first started out.
Yeah,
all those songs ended up on the first album that we did at Q too. But
yep, the tap in Haverhill, we recorded it at the brewery in like some overflow space they had. That Brian tracked that. Thanks, Brian, if you hear this.
Oh, that's rad. How did you have a relationship with the folks over at Q Division before you kind of made your first record? Besides, like, did he work there before that, or how did you guys like get hooked up?
Yeah, so we knew Sean from college, Sean Cahalan, and he's engineered everything that we've put out. So, so we just basically, when we record something, we say, "Hey, Sean, we've got songs. What's your availability look like?" And then we make it work. He's a busier and busier boy as the years go on, but we're able to make it work.
Yeah, weren't him and Teeny, our drummer, were roommates, I think.
At one point,
in college, yeah. I remember he came out to a show that we did somewhere in like Beverly or something, and I hadn't met Sean. And he was just like, "Oh yeah, you guys are cool. I want to record you." And we're like, "Cool, we want to be recorded."
He's the best. He's the best.
Nicest guy. He really is the best.
So good at what he does.
Yeah, Q Division's like pretty legendary in the city. I feel like everybody's got some story to tell about him, or like some connection to him, or it seems like in one way or the other. But I mean, that's a pretty big. It's like a massive place, right? They got like multiple rooms in there and everything.
Yeah, so they're less so now because they lost their old B room, and so they've had to kind of reshuffle. But still, the A room is as it's always been in its glory, and just like the vibe there is awesome. Like when you're hanging out there and like you're hanging out with the people there and you're tracking there, it's just like the vibe is awesome. The sounds they get are awesome. It's just like a very cool place to be and record. We're lucky to be able to work there with Sean for sure.
And when we were doing the first couple of things we did there, I was actually living like a mile down the street. So we would do these kind of epic weekend sessions where we would get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, go until like 2 o'clock the next morning, go crash at my apartment for like 5 hours. I would wake everyone up by making everyone breakfast, and then we'd be back there at like 9-10 the next morning. Nice. So it would just be like, we would have like 3 days, and in those 3 days we would do probably like 40 hours or something, something ridiculous.
Yeah, man.
That was dumb and fun.
I feel like it's always a cram session, just because like people are on a budget and you gotta get it done when you gotta get it done. Like that's what makes like being in the studio fun though. It's like, you just go hard for 2 days and sleep on a floor and then get at it again and finish it, But I feel like I heard, have I heard correctly rumors that they might not stay in Davis Square? I feel like I kind of heard recently that they might move
I'm not sure.
somewhere else.
I mean, I haven't been in the building now. So our last session tracking this record was last February. So I haven't been in or around the building since then. But they just redid what was their old D room, right, Chris? And like that's now their B space because they lost their old B room. So they just did a bunch of like moving of equipment and getting that other room up and running. So, but I'm not sure.
They're definitely being subjected to some of the gentrification that's happening throughout Somerville. Like that losing their original B room wasn't their decision. I guess there was some tech startup maybe that had rented space in the same building and they decided they wanted more space. And the landlord was basically just like, yeah, you kind of have to move out of that space so this other company can move in. And then there was a laundromat that was attached to Q as well. And that laundromat, apparently it's not a laundromat anymore, but whoever moved in there kept the sign to make it like look like authentic Somerville or something. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were just kind of getting squeezed from all angles and ended up somewhere else. But I don't think either of us have actually heard anything about that. But
yeah,
I would be sad. Like, I love going to that place. It's so comfortable to record in there.
Yeah, I feel like
that would be a huge fucking bummer.
They've got such a legendary presence, But I mean, I feel like you think studios maybe are not always as much of a victim to getting squeezed out as like performance spaces are, because they're like studios kind of by design tend to try to be sort of tucked away and hidden like off the beaten path. Whereas like, a venue that's on a main strip sharing space with like retail or whatever else, I feel like, or apartment, college or whatever, like they probably are a little bit more vulnerable maybe, but like, I guess that's probably the one good thing is that studios purposely try to hide themselves. They're kind of like tucked away. So February of 2019 is when you guys wrapped tracking on this?
February 2020.
Or February 2020. That's what I
meant. Yes. Yeah. So that was the last time we did a couple of overdubs. We did some group vocals, and then we listened to everything for the last time before mixing. And then we were in the process of mixing end of February into early March. And then all of this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just got it in.
You
basically
got like slid in right under the gun because everything crashed down like a month later. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So like most of the writing, or all of the writing process for this record took place, prior to the pandemic. It sounds like it.
Yeah, for the music for sure. This record was unique for us in the way that so we started tracking this record in April of 2019 was when we first put down drums and bass and the first round of guitars. And then we had a couple sessions. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had a couple sessions in like late spring, early summer to wrap up more guitars and stuff.
Well, I think what we did is we did one of those like epic weekends, maybe like 3 days where we got all the basics done. And then I think that was in April. And then I don't think it was until September that we got in there again. Yeah. Because it was like September, me and Jim went in and just did like an 18-hour just guitar overdub session. Sean, he's the real hero here. He dealt with it. But yeah, when we recorded all those basics, we didn't really have all the vocals figured out, and we didn't have all the guitar leads or all the guitar solos and all that kind of stuff. And that was a little bit by design because we were just kind of really antsy to record. And also we wanted to use the basics to to write all the rest of that stuff, because the only demos we had of it were just like, I brought my little like 8 input interface to the practice space one time and just like recorded us playing it. So that was basically all we had for demos. And we wanted to take time to like work out these like melodies and like come up with, we do some like back and forth guitar solo stuff. And we wanted to have like the basics there so we could sit at our houses and just like do that for hours until we thought we had good stuff. So it was kind of by design, but not entirely. I mean, it was by design that we were going to do the basics and then go back in, but it wasn't by design that it was going to be like a 10 months process.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, so what was the process kind of like after the pandemic hit? Like how much did that kind of slow things down? Did you guys just put the whole thing on hold for a while, or like what was the
that was kind of interesting because we had all the tracking done, and we just couldn't go in and participate in the mixing. Like Sean mixed it all at his house, and we would just be like, every week he'd be sending us stuff and we'd be sending him notes, and then he'd send us stuff. So we did all the mixing that way, and then we did the mastering that way. But I think the pandemic kind of, maybe it was a little bit of a blessing as far as how we're releasing it, because we had a bunch of cool shows coming up that unfortunately got canceled by the pandemic. So we were kind of like, all right, let's just put this out there. We were talking about just like releasing it digitally and, you know, whatever, just getting it out there so we could have it out there for all these cool shows we had coming up over the summer and everything. But because there weren't going to be any shows, we're like, oh, maybe we should take some time and like see if we can like get like a cool vinyl release going and everything like that. And that's kind of how it shaped out. But like, if it weren't for the pandemic, who knows if we would have had the patience to like go through that whole process.
Yeah, shout out Terry from the Jukebox Romantics, who sent me a message, something to the effect of, don't be an idiot. Don't just put it up on the internet. I think he might have said, don't be a fucking idiot.
Like, take your time with it. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I remember at one point, me and Kevin were talking. Kevin's like, man, it's just been so long since we released anything. I mean, it had probably been like 2 years or a year and a half since we put out the split. It wasn't really that long, but
you're antsy.
It
really
felt like
antsy.
It was a really, really long time. And we were like, oh, we got these cool shows and we're going to be playing these songs anyways. And it's stupid to play them, but not have them really. So yeah, so we were just thinking about just throwing it out there to the world, but because we didn't do that, now we are going to have some like cool records, and we have like a cool video. And so.
Yeah, I feel like it's come up a few times, you know, in recent conversations about how like the ability to like have that pause and not be under the pressure that, you know, most artists put themselves under within a certain time frame to complete something definitely has its upsides as far as like the way that people have been able to process through whatever the thing is that they're creating or like putting out that kind of came unexpectedly from the you know, resulted from the pandemic.
Yeah, and for us, it's like completely self-inflicted pressure. It's not like there's like anyone banging down our doors for new tunes from us. We just wanted to have new songs recorded and out there.
And we like always put some kind of artificial deadline on ourselves. Like, Chris, I don't know if you remember, but like the CDs for like the first full length we put out, the CDs showed up like the week of our album release show or something silly like that. Like
we got them and went on tour like 2 days later.
Yeah. Like we had booked the show, like planned this whole tour without having the CDs in hand. And like that whole week leading up to, like, sure do hope we have those albums in hand before we go on tour. And so we just like, we've always kind of put these weird deadlines on ourselves to like keep us under the gun. And then with this, there wasn't that pressure. But you know, it all worked out. I mean, it's been, as much as it sucked sitting on this album until now, it's been cool to have this to look forward to, you know, because like what else is there to look forward to? So it's been cool over the last couple months to like get ready for the release, and then, you know, have this whole release cycle going on, and then now finally to have it out. So it's been cool. Like, wasn't by design, but it's been fun nonetheless.
Yeah. I think like it's two sides of the coin, you know, everybody like you got to put some kind of a deadline on shit, right? Cause like even like I do with this, like, you know, I can't like, I got to make myself put out an episode every week. Otherwise, like I'll just like a month will go by. I won't do it. You know, like you got to have something, but I think it's been really interesting to look at the way that people have been like, yeah, like it's really weird. I did this thing, but because the pandemic came along, I had no deadline anymore. I suddenly was able to just like sit with this thing, like, and whether it's even through the mixing process or like, you know, having like kind of the distance from it, being able to like listen to it a little bit slower, like absorb it a little bit longer, or like let it kind of bake, you know, before gearing up for your release and doing all that stuff. I feel like has to actually probably have a positive, you know, or just allow you to kind of approach it in a different way that's a little bit more pleasantly creative and not like under the gun, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when we were first working on it, it was cool because I'll speak for myself, it gave me something to work on when I was feeling insane. Those first few weeks when like the real panic of quarantine was setting in, and like getting those mixes every couple weeks and getting together to have calls with the guys and to have that to work on, gave me kind of a sense of purpose outside of my normal daily stuff, you know? So from that perspective, like the creative part aside, you know, having time, it was cool to have something to focus on other than there's a global pandemic, you know?
Honestly, that's kind of been true for the entire last year, because this entire year we've been sort of working on putting it out. Like, at least, I mean, me and Kevin are talking about it all the time. Like, there was a time we were like last spring, we're like, all right, cool, we have it. Now who's going to master it? And then we're like, you know, thinking about different people to master it. And then we're like, all right, how are we going to release it? Are we going to self-release it? Are we going to see if we can find a label to help? And then, you know, we're emailing labels, asking if anyone's interested, that whole thing. And another interesting thing about it is that normally when we finish recording something, we get back together and we're like, all right, let's write something new. Who's got riffs? And then it's like, all right, we're mostly spent of like parts and songs and everything. But now, like, because of the last year, I've just been sitting in my house playing guitar. I feel like when we get back together, it's going to be like, all right, do you want to work on this one? Do you want to work on this one? Do you want to work on this one?
I can't wait to have that problem.
I can't wait.
I have a whole stockpile of stuff, and like, I hope I remember it all, because I record stuff on my own sometimes, but a lot of it I'm just kind of trusting that it's going to be in the back of my head when I go to find it. So we'll see. We're all getting that vaccine pretty soon, so we'll be probably getting back to kind of normal band practices sometime soon.
So you guys haven't been able to you guys haven't done anything, like nothing in person since?
Well, last summer we were getting together in my backyard a little bit and like playing with acoustic guitars and like being like, oh, maybe we'll do an acoustic set and everything like that. But
not real rocking.
That kind of dried up. And then during the winter, me and Kevin have been hanging out at the practice space, and I bought a new amp. So I just wanted to go up there and like make so much noise. So Kevin's been kind enough to come with me, and I've been showing him stuff that I've been working on myself.
Yeah.
But we haven't had the five of us like inside a room with instruments in our hands in over a year now.
Yeah.
But we're so close to it now. So that's like a major sourse of like optimism for me. It's like, I'm going to have band practice soon. I'm very excited about that.
Everybody can taste it. Everybody's
so
like,
close.
Yes. What was your process with like, how did you guys all like go on a Zoom call together and then like listen to the tracks at the same time to like take notes on like how did you guys kind of physically do the mixing process like logistically? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So we had a Google Doc that we were working on, and then everyone would leave their personal notes. So we listened independently. Everyone had their personal notes for each song, and then we would get together and talk through them. And then if it was like, oh, I didn't hear that, or, oh, I'm not hearing it that way, then we would all like listen on the side while we're on a video call and then like talk through it, sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a little clunky, but it worked. And then, you know, we would schedule a call every like week or every 10 days or something to catch back up and go, because everyone has lives and stuff. So, get back together, listen to everything again, talk through it again. So, kind of went through a cycle of that for a while.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was just curious, like, it's weird how everybody's had to like just adapt with this kind of shit, and like figure out how to do it all. So it's interesting to me.
It wasn't ideal, but like, it worked. It was cool. And like I said, it gave us a reason to get together, and talk and stuff. So
yeah, it was something like you said, it was like at the very beginning of the pandemic, it was kind of like, panic mode, like what, I can't hang out with my friends. Are you kidding? But it kind of gave something to look forward to, something to think about outside of, the same, I don't know whether you were being depressed about everything or mad about everything. I think I was tending a little towards the mad because of the way the whole thing was being handled, but it just gave something completely outside of all that to focus on. And it was kind of a blessing to be working on it during that period of time. And like I said, during this entire year, like just having something to look forward to and something to be optimistic about.
Totally. How do you, like, it's funny. You read some of the song titles on this record, Wits End, At Our Lowest, like Never Worse, and Perspective and stuff like that. And you think to yourself, like, it kind of sounds like songs that could have very well been written during this year, and during this time that like we've all kind of been experiencing. And so I'm curious, like, kind of where the songwriting process for this one started, and like kind of how, like, where you were coming from with a lot of these tracks, whether they were kind of new or had been sitting in the bank for a while, or like, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Real quick, because I'm going to let Kevin answer that one. But Joe MacFadzen, the guy who took the photos that we're kind of using for all like the press related stuff for this, I ran into him in Salem the other day, and he was like, oh yeah, I was talking to Kevin and reading through the lyrics, and like Kevin's a good friend of mine, and I always think, Kevin's at a pretty good point in life, he seems like a pretty happy guy. Then I read the lyrics and I'm like, oh man, like, you okay, buddy? Is everything all right? Like he was saying that to me, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you got to have your outlets,
Yeah. So that's correct. And like, it's funny because I get a lot of shit, in jest from friends that I'm like smiling when I'm on stage the whole time, but my songs tend towards my songs tend towards me being so sad. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, that's the way I get those feelings out, and this record was a little different because like, I'm not as sad as I used to be. Like everyone has some amount of sadness, right? But like, I don't think I'm like, I've started to kind of work on myself and get my shit together in a way. So a lot of the songs, while the content might be a little similar, I'm sort of looking at it. I'm looking at that person in the rear view a little bit. You know what I mean? So some of the lyrics tend towards kind of talking about myself in the third person a little bit, because like some of those tendencies I don't have as much anymore. Some of those feelings might be old feelings. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But the weird thing about this record lyrically is that, so we wrote these songs and tracked these songs over the course of a couple years. And when we went in to record Basics, I think I only had lyrics for like 5 of the 11 songs, maybe 6 of the 11 songs. And my wife was pregnant when we went into track Basics, and I probably should have been a little more foot on the gas writing lyrics like through the spring and the summer, but we had like a summer tour that we went on. So like other stuff was going on. And then we had my daughter that in September of that year. And then it was like, okay, I need to, get through getting the baby home and getting settled with life and stuff. And it's like, okay, time to get back in the studio and finish this record, and also write lyrics for 5 songs. So like a couple of the songs, like I had a pretty good idea of like melodically what I was trying to do, and lyrically what I was trying to do. And a couple of songs I was sort of shooting from the hip. And Chris makes it a point to go to all of my vocal sessions, or most of them if he can. And Chris, you'll remember the one I went to where I went in with an idea, and I just from the first second I started singing, I hated it. Like it just wasn't coming out right. I didn't love what I was doing. And like I was just like an exhausted new dad on top of it. And I'd never gone through this before. Like usually the songs are at least somewhat battle tested live before I go in and record them. These were brand new ideas that I'd never even sung out loud before, because I have a 5-week-old in my house. So like, they're all just ideas from my head that I'm singing out, out loud. So like Chris off the side was like, hey, like, if you're not happy with this, like, why don't we work on some of the lyrics together? He's like, I have some ideas that I've worked on, and like, if you want to see them, then let's try that. And like, I've always just written everything. But Chris actually ended up writing the lyrics for 2 of the songs in this record. And it was really cool to be able to like have Chris contribute that way and have me sing his thoughts. So that was new for us and awesome. Like, I totally enjoyed it. And thanks, Chris, for the help.
Yeah, I'm not super comfortable writing lyrics, and I never really did much of that before. But I don't know, I was feeling a little bit inspired. So yeah, and then like Kevin said, there were a bunch of songs left, so I was like, yeah, I do have some ideas. So
it worked out, and then that kind of jogged my confidence into like wrapping up that last one, the last track on the record, which was the last one I finished. So like having some momentum going through those last 2 that you helped me with got me over the finish line with the last track. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was definitely not our typical recording experience, especially vocal wise, but yeah, I'm super happy with how it came out. And yeah, I'm excited. This day is finally here.
So you guys, have you always, so you pretty much always, it's been strictly like you contributing lyrics. And this was like kind of the first time that you guys like shared lyrically some of the writing.
Yep. Yeah. Usually it's the song is done musically, front to back. And then the guys go, here you go, Kevin's song is done. And then, I do the vocal part, and then we play it live and see if it works. If it doesn't, we tweak it a little bit, and then it's done. Yeah. This was the first time anyone other than me wrote lyrics. It was cool. It was like really neat to not have them feel so personal to me. Like, so I could be a little more objective about like where stuff fits and like moving stuff around it. They weren't so precious to me, right? Because they weren't my words. Like, I was being respectful with Chris's words, obviously, but it was interesting.
Come at it with a different perspective.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
We had given you like themes before. Like, I think one time we were like, write a song about how we don't want to grow up and we just want to rock.
Yeah, like, thank you for the input, guys.
Yeah, like, right, like that was the extent of it.
I can't think of a crazier shift in life from like you said, like, you had a batch of songs written and then some that you hadn't gotten to yet, and then like coming at it with a new baby on the other side of it. Like, I can't think of a more like crazy shift from like one session to the next to have to like revisit how you're feeling and like what you're writing, where you're coming from when you're writing. Like, that's such a huge change, in a different place in life to be at, which is really cool. I mean, I think that's really rad.
Yeah, it was, I don't think I'll ever forget. We had a session booked, and I was working on that song that we did for the video, Never Worse. And I've had the chorus for that song done for a long time. But and I had kind of an idea melodically what I wanted to do during the verse, but I'd kind of like never really settled on lyrics. And there was this one night, I think this was just after Fest, so I think my daughter was like 6 weeks old, and I said to my wife, I'm like, I have to get out of the house somewhere and go try to write this. So like, I walked down, there's a brewery a couple of streets down, and I walked down. It was like a Wednesday night, so there was like nobody there, and I just sat there with my laptop and worked there for 2 hours. But I remember the whole time I was just thinking of like my wife and kid at home. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like I was focusing on what I was doing, but at the same time I'm like, why am I here? So it was like it was nice to get out, and I actually got the song done in that little like writing session. So it worked, but it was a very weird thing where I couldn't fully focus. And I think that's kind of just an adjustment you make being a parent. It's like, you kind of always have other stuff rolling through your head. But I was still so new to it at that point that it was weird to be like, I'm trying to focus on this, but like, I couldn't like focus completely on what I was trying to do. It still got it done, but yeah, it's interesting. It's awesome. I love being a dad, but yeah, it was a challenge.
And I mean, it's inevitable that it's gonna show up across the board from now on, you know, in one way or another. Like that's never gonna not be a part of like how you're trying to write, like what you're trying to do. Like it's just gonna be in there, you know.
Yep. I'm just gonna smile more at shows now. So look forward to it, everybody. Got that
Everybody
post
loves
pandy
that,
grin going. No, I got
Everybody
that
loves
new
it.
dad
Everybody
grin.
loves it. But yeah, I feel like when I first saw the list of new tracks, I was just like, and I wasn't sure exactly when you guys had finished tracking it. I was like, yeah, like a lot of these songs sound like pretty they're gonna resonate pretty well with the way that people have been kind of feeling after this fucking year. And so, you know, the timing just may have been spot on.
Yeah, I write sad boy lyrics, so it's my thing. I don't know. It's just it. You know,
Those are
it's
my favorite lyrics.
I mean, there have been times when we have new songs in the can and Chris is bugging me because he wants to play them live. And I'm like, dude, I'm like happy. Life is fine. I don't have anything to write about. Like, I'm so unmotivated to write when everything is fine and I'm content. Like, seriously,
I'm not angry. I have no music to write.
I need some sort of turmoil because I'm not someone who like, I don't write as a practice, right? I'm not one of those people like sits down for half an hour a day and just writes. Like, I need the music that the guys have that we've worked on together to write against, right? I don't just like write lyrics separate from music. I certainly like have ideas that I jot down. I have this long running Google Doc of just like tiny little lyric snippets. So when a new song is done, I kind of run them by all those little lyric ideas and be like, oh, is one of these going to work? But yeah, so like if everything's fine and everything's like going good in my life, those songs are going to sit for a bit because I don't have anything to write about.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I'm always interested to hear people's like process too. Cause like, I think people have super unique ways of approaching anything that's like really personal, you know? And it's either full blown stream of consciousness, like you said, like people just sit down and they write, you know, or it's gotta have the structure around it to like resonate off of, you know, whether it's
I have to mean
having
it.
the music written or just other experiences or people around somebody, you know.
Yeah, for me, it's like I really have to mean it, and for me to mean it is usually means I'm like upset. Like if I'm happy, like I'm. Like, I don't know. Content for me is content is still, right? Like uneasiness for me is being upset or worried or nervous or whatever, right? And like that's what tends to motivate the kind of thoughts that force me to write, you know. Like calm for me is not a place where I'm creative. I think Touche Amore, one of those lyrics from one of their earlier albums is, it's hard to write content and it still is, and it still is. And I so identify with that lyric. It's like, yeah, I feel that.
Who are like collectively, like all of you guys, I mean, like where do you guys draw some of your biggest influences from? Because every time I listen to you guys, I have to admit, I go down this very, very happy, like nostalgic kind of lane where I get super nostalgic for like the mid 2000s and like a whole bunch of bands I used to like Therefore I Am and Receiving End of Sirens and Under Oath and like a whole bunch of those bands. So I'm super curious.
So I think that era is probably a pretty heavy drawer. But like, especially if I go back and listen to some of the stuff that I was super into in like the mid 2000s, like, you know, like one band that we always say would be like a Wilhelm Scream, because we all have our own things, but that's one band that we all happen to agree on. Band like Strike Anywhere for me. But another layer of it is that I think that like the people in those bands aren't that much older than we are. And I think that the music that inspired the people that were making those records in the mid 2000s were probably listening before they made those records. They were probably listening to a lot of the other stuff that inspired them, like like for me personally, like since I'm writing like the guitar parts and things like that, um I'm thinking I like pretty much every guitar player I ever have liked is in the back of my head if I'm trying to come up with a part. Like, so there might be a little part in there that's like kind of Iron Maiden-y, or maybe no one else would notice it, but like in the back of my head, I might be like, oh, maybe that's where like I got that idea, or like Thin Lizzy even, or like, like going way back. And I know that some of those bands in the mid 2000s were like listening to some of that old like rock music and metal music, and like even me and Jim, the other guitar player, we were into like some of the like Swedish melodic death metal, like In Flames and stuff like that. Like they have all these like big guitar harmonies and things like that. And not that we're trying to, not that we're like trying to sound like that or do that, but it's like definitely up there. Um, and so I think a lot of those, I think that stuff was up there for a lot of those mid 2000 bands that you're referring to when they were coming up with that stuff. So like,
Yeah.
so it's like we have, and I'm not trying to get like too, I'm not trying to like take this to another level or anything, but like we have all those, that era bands that you were just mentioned in our head, but we also have in our head the stuff that those guys had in their heads when they
Right.
were making those records too. So
Yeah.
it's like, just like kind of like a multi-layered thing. But the other thing is that like we all kind of were into, I mean, we're all into the same general type of music, but we all had different bands that were our go-tos when we got together. And there, I think at some point we had like a very specific conversation that was like, let's not try to be too genre specific. Let's like, if someone has an idea and it's a cool idea, let's like try and work it out and see how it comes out. Cause like even if when we're working on it, we're like, oh, that sounds a little different than the rest of the songs we're doing. It might not fit on a record, or it might not fit with like the other stuff we're doing. Like when we're all playing it and we've all had our hands in like working it out when we're writing it, it's going to come out sounding like us. And like that's the point. You don't want everything to be like kind of the same kind of thing. So if you listen to the whole album that we have, like, I mean, there's probably a lot of songs that you'd be like, oh yeah, those songs are all similar to it, but there's definitely some like outliers that I feel like when we were younger, maybe we would have been like, oh, that song's a little too different than the other ones, that kind of thing. And I think we've made like a concerted effort to not do that, and just to kind of like, I mean, every now and again we'll be working on something, we'll just be like, all right, this is a little too ridiculous.
There is a line. There is a line for sure.
There's definitely a line, but like when we're at practice and we're working out songs, we do make an effort to not to like make to like cast a pretty wide net,
Yeah.
like we're not trying to make an entire like batch of songs into necessarily the exact same style. And like I said a minute ago, like even if something's different, like it's us that's writing it and it's us that's playing it. So that's what it's going to sound like, for better or worse. But
it passes the test with the majority of us, at least. We try to let most ideas pass if most of us like it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's generally the policy.
No, I love it. I love you guys. I love that it's you got that like melodic hardcore, and it's like, oh, that reminds me of like, I don't know, Story of the Year or something, and then you've got your sick like Trans-Siberian Orchestra harmonic guitarist like lead parts that you do. Like it's fucking great. And I like, you were talking before about lyrically, and one of the tracks we totally should talk about is your track "Everyone in Gainesville Looks Like Someone I Know," which resonates with me in particular very, very strongly, because I too have written a little bit of a love ballad to the fest that
nice.
I've played sometimes. I think most of us who have been can kind of resonate pretty well with what a life-changing and like crucial experience it is on
it's
so
awesome
many levels.
It's the best. It's
Monday After Fest is like the worst hangover of the year.
Dude, so this past
So
fest,
being alone down there.
I flew out of that little airport in Gainesville. So I intentionally stopped partying at like 10:30, 11 o'clock because I had a super early flight out the next morning. And I got there at like normal airport time. Like, right, you get to the airport like an hour and a half early because you have to go through security and everything. Like, I'd never flown out of this airport before. I could have shown up 5 minutes before this plane took off and I could have got on it, no problem. Like, I got there, all right, so I got out of our hotel and I'm super fucking hung up. Sorry, I like censored myself. Like, I can't swear on this podcast. Super fucking hungover, waiting for my Uber outside of the hotel. It's not even 8 o'clock in the morning yet. Like, still drunk.
People are still out partying, probably.
This couple walks up to me and they're like, "Can we share your Uber?" And I was like, so unprepared for this question. I'm just like, "Are you going to the same place I'm going? You haven't asked me where I'm going." Like, "Well, you're going to the airport, right?" And I was like, "Yes."
How did you know that?
Sure. So they're like, "Okay, cool." So they just get in my Uber and I'm just like, I'm still just like out of my mind. And so we take the super chatty Uber to the airport. And I'm thinking that like, it's going to be a normal airport experience, right? We're going to get in, there's going to be hundreds of people milling about with their coffees, getting ready for security. We get in there, security hasn't even clocked in yet. Like, it's just me and these two people who hijacked my Uber sitting there for like 45 minutes by ourselves in this airport. And they're clearly looking at me like they want to have conversation because we're fest friends. And I was just like, I just put my headphones in and I pulled my hat down over my face. I was like, I can't. I'm just completely unprepared for this social interaction. I'm just going to sit here by myself. They don't even have coffee. I'm just like, I can't do it. But yeah, I love fest so much. And like, we've gone 3 years in a row and they've all been different in very different ways. Like, between the people, like every year a different wave of friends comes, right? So like, there's some people who are constants and then there's some people who only went to one or only went to this other one. And so you have like very specific memories with those people.
Every year has its vibe.
Yeah. And so it's like you're going to the same places, right? And you're seeing, maybe like 40 to 50% the same bands, but the feeling is always different because you're, depending on the time of day or the people you're with or what's happened, the night before or whatever. So yeah, I mean, like when we went down for our first fest is when I wrote that song and we played it the next two fests that we played and it ended up on this record. So I think, is that the second oldest song on this record, Chris? That was like Done that we were playing live?
I think. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I remember we were writing that one and it was like a little more upbeat and then it was like, oh, let's make this a party song. I was like, this should be a party song. And Kevin, can you write this was our lyrical contribution. It was like, Kevin,
can you write some happy party lyrics?
This song should be a happy party song. So there we go, helping Kevin out with lyrics. But yeah, and it was funny. And that title came from, we were just walking around and I don't think any of us had ever been to the fest before. That was
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was our first one we were playing and it was the first one we'd ever been to. And we played in Jacksonville on Friday night, like idiots, like because we were like, oh, we're touring down. We need to play as many shows as possible. Right. Little did we know we would have just, I mean, the show was fine, but like we obviously would have had more fun if we were at fest. Like, you don't want to burn it at fest. But
we're at the show scrolling through the fest schedule being like, we could be seeing this band right now. We could be seeing this band right now.
Yeah. But like, I just remember we were walking around and we kept seeing people and we're like, is that? And that's where that name came from. Like every time we saw someone, and sometimes it was someone we knew and sometimes it wasn't, but that entire first day there, we were just walking around like thinking that every person we saw was someone that we knew. So that's kind of like like overly literal.
Like, well, that's thing. Like, I mean, like, and it's just one of those things where like, you have to have been there, like, because to feel that, you know what I mean? Cause that's just how it is. You see it just, I don't know. It speaks so well on a literal and a metaphorical level. Like, it's just, you see people that you literally are like, oh, oh, sorry, I thought you were somebody else. And then also you see 3,000 people that are your people, you know, and
It's
and
just like the happiest place on earth. Like everyone's
it
friendly with each other. Like I don't think I've ever seen a fight there, you know, like
yeah.
everyone's just everyone's just doing their thing, having a good time, and it's just a lot of
Punk rock
fun.
Christmas, man. Punk rock Christmas.
Yeah.
That's where I got my lyrical inspiration from, because I was like, I heard somebody one of the very first times I went down there refer to it as punk. Like, they were like, it's like Christmas. It's like punk rock Christmas, and I was like, that's
That was a good way of putting it.
Yep.
This is the closest thing to a religious experience that is not a religious
It's so much fun. It's honestly, it's like more fun than we deserve to have. It's awesome. And like, I know some folks who like have gone and absolutely hate it, and they're people that I like. And
I have never met any of those people.
I've never,
or at least I've never had that conversation.
I can tell you who they are when we're not on the Zoom, but and I'm like, I can't disagree with an opinion more than that opinion. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it's not for everyone, but yeah, we had a lot of fun, and it was, yeah, when we were on that first fest that we did, I think it was in 2017. That was when we were really first starting to write the songs for this one, and it was like, oh, we have this song that we want to be a party lyrics, and then we got back and we are like, okay, now we have the inspiration. We just like went to the most fun party there is, so boom, song, next song.
Yeah. And it's fucking great, man. It's certainly definitely one of my favorites. And I've gotten to see you guys play it like at least a good handful of times now at this point. So no, it's pretty cool. And then you guys also released you kind of released the track Never Worse in video form, and it's pretty cool. I really like this video because it's not like what you would think of as a traditional like animated or lyric video. It's got organic like actual video like footage in it, as well as this kind of animated storyline. Dude's name is Aaron Marinette.
Aaron took so Chris's friend Justin was the one who animated this for us.
Okay.
And Aaron had shot our set when we opened for Strung Out a few years ago.
Okay.
And because he made like a live video of one of the songs off the split. And when we were doing this animated video project, Justin had asked us, like, do you guys have any, like, can you guys maybe like record yourselves playing in your houses, or like, can we add some shots of you guys? And the question came up like, well, I mean, I think Aaron shot that whole set. Like, can he give us the footage? And he was gracious enough to give us the whole set shot in HD. So Justin was able to kind of incorporate some of that into this video.
Yeah, it was really cool how that came together, because we really wanted to have a video when we were putting out this record, and a friend of ours, Dan, has had this kind of video idea that, I mean, he told us about it probably a couple of years ago when he saw us, and he wanted to do it, and we were all set to do this video, which would have been like more of a, you know, the kind of video you would expect from like our kind of band. It was just going to be a bunch of people in a room and, you know, rocking out and, you know, shots flashing everywhere. You know, it was going to be kind of like, you know, a video that you would expect from us. And we actually, we had that all planned out. Yeah. We had the basement of Opus in Salem booked out. And we were buying lighting. We had like called out a bunch of friends to come down there. And it was scheduled for like something like March 20th of last year.
It was the first thing that COVID took out was our video shoot.
Yeah, it was the first thing that COVID took out. Yep, exactly. And like I was emailing back and forth with the venue, and we're like, oh yeah, maybe we can just reschedule it for like next month or something. You know, like remember we were all like doing that kind of stuff for a while.
Like I thought it was just going to be a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll just push it back a couple weeks, and then so we didn't have a video. But as it was getting kind of close to release time in the winter, Joseph at Hellminded was being like, "Oh, you guys gonna still do a video? That'd be cool if you guys did a video." And we're like, "Oh yeah, we should totally do a video. We just haven't." And we were trying to figure out a way to do it. And a couple of the I talked to my friend Justin. He's like my bestie, like, from growing up and everything. And our kids are the exact same age pretty much. And um, like I was talking to him about, like, are there concepts we can do for like social distancing? Can we be like outside and stuff? And he was like, "Oh, why don't I just animate you guys a bunch of stuff and make that as a video?" And so his job is doing like animation and video production and stuff like that. He's a total pro, and he has a day job, and then he also takes on a bunch of freelance work. And he was like, "Yeah, freelance is quiet right now, and there's a bunch of new stuff I want to try with animating. So it'll be fun to work on like a friend project instead of like the kind of like corporate type stuff that he normally has to take on, for the paycheck and everything like that." And so like we just did a Zoom call like this, and Kevin like told him some of the imagery that's running through his head when he's like singing the song or thinking about that song and everything. And like a month later, he's like, "Oh, how's this?" And we're like, "Okay, that's great."
He crushed it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he's awesome. We're super lucky to have that. We're all pretty happy with how it came out.
Gelatin Man Rampage.
Yeah, basically.
It's fucking great. I love also that there's like these shots in it that look, I mean, I can't tell the difference in some of them if it's an animated, if the background part is animated or if they're organic shots. Like that's how good it is. It almost looks just like camera footage of like a space or a couch or whatever.
He
did an awesome job,
incredibly we're incredibly lucky with like just the friends we have and people that want to work with us and help out. Like, I mean, pretty much the entire list of everyone that's helped us with this, it's all like good friends of ours. Like Sean, who records all of our stuff. Like he went to college with Kevin and Teeny, and I think was even Teeny's roommate. Like Joe MacFadzen, who took all those photos. Like Kevin and Joe grew up together. Justin, who did that video, he's like, like I said, he's my bestie. Like we were in the same first grade class together. Yeah.
Charlie, it's one of our oldest friends being in this band. He drums for the Hideout, does like all of our album artwork and stuff. Just like we got an awesome crew that helps us out with all this stuff. It's we're very, very lucky. Very lucky.
Yep.
Yeah, it's rad. It's a rad way to like kind of personify some of the music at this time too, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like something like an animation or a something that's drawn as art, or like even with album art with like drawings and graphic rendering that like speaks internally to the way that people are feeling, as opposed to still images or video that's shot of actual people, because everything has been so kind of sterilized and like on pause. And like, it's like, yeah, you could shoot a video outside in a field, social distancing, or you could do whatever. But there's something very like powerful about taking like the way that you're feeling internally and visualizing it the way that he did in this particular video. So I think it's like a pretty sweet way to come out with one of the first singles off the record.
Cool. Yeah, and we probably will do at some point like the kind of video that I was describing earlier. I mean, we want to do it. We always wanted to do something like that, and it was just purely the fault of COVID that we didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I kind of feel the same way that you do about like music videos. I remember being a kid and like seeing like those like old like Weezer videos from the Blue Album and everything, and like those are just like kind of like ingrained in my brain somewhere back there.
Weezer, Foo Fighters, Green Day, Blink-182.
I'm not a visually creative person at all. So like going into making this video, I was like super self-conscious because I was like, I don't know if the ideas I'm giving Justin are going to make any sense at all. And he's like, "Oh, I think I can storyboard this and make something out of it." And he's like, "Here's this great video." I'm like, whoa, cool.
Yeah.
Like I can't draw. I'm not a photographer. I like not visually creative at all. So it's like very cool that Justin could take some kind of like very basic ideas from me and make that video. So all the credit to him.
Yeah, it's rad. It's a great fucking video. You guys mentioned before like your involvement with like looking for labels and stuff like that. Like how did you guys get involved with Hell-Minded, and what is the like are they a full label, or do they just kind of do more like distribution, or like how what's your relationship with them like kind of like?
Yeah, so I mean, we emailed a bunch of labels. I mean, I guess now we'll call it early in the pandemic. At the time, it wasn't early. It was probably past when we all thought we would be stuck at home. You know, it was like past that first quarantine period. And then we're like, oh, so we're going to be able to go out and do stuff again, right? But anyway, so Joseph from Hell-Minded had hit us up and said he dug the album and wanted to talk to us more. So we had a Zoom call with him. And so he's he's a one-man operation. I mean, he has like distribution channels and stuff, but like as far as like, you know, working with artists and packaging everything up at home, and like he's a one-stop shop. But he had a few releases under his belt, and he had a bunch already on slate for 2020. And then he's got a bunch more releases after this one for 2021. So he's basically like, hey, listen, like I'm ramping up and I'd love you guys to jump on board. Like, here's what I'm thinking. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. He's based out of New Jersey, which isn't far from here. His main gig is he runs the Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market, which is like a giant event that he runs throughout the year, which obviously during COVID times he couldn't do. So he was more focused on like label stuff. But he's been awesome to work with. Like he really helped us see how releasing this record during a quarantine could be cool and fun, and something that could be like not a bummer. Basically, I don't know how else to say it. And he was right. Like this whole process has been cool. And like I said earlier in our chat, like it's been tough to sit on this for so long, but yeah, that Joseph's been great. And yeah, just so happy today's here. It's awesome.
He's and there it's fair. It seems like it's fairly new and it's exciting. And I mean, I like following him on Instagram and just seeing like what other records he's going to be putting out. Like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. We've been enjoying it, at least.
You guys, so you guys mentioned like, you know, as things are very slowly starting to ramp up and you know, vaccines are coming out and stuff like that. You know, you guys are finally going to get back together to get into the studio space and work, you know, get back to practicing and stuff like that. How, what's coming down the pipes? Like, is there anything kind of in the works that you can talk about, or that you feel like people should be I just want to play, man.
I just want to play. I just want to play. I just want shows to be a thing and to play.
Yeah, for me personally,
nothing would make me happier.
For me personally, like I mean, one of the reasons we're holding off is just because, like, you know, people have different living situations. You know, some people live with higher risk people and everything like that, and so you know, we're trying to follow the rules, be really careful and everything like that. But man, like I was saying earlier, like I feel like I've been in my house so much. I've probably played more guitar in the past year than, you know, any other year in my life. And so I really want to start working on stuff again. And I just have so many new tunes and so many ideas and everything. And the way that I like to work, I like the collaboration kind of thing. Like I don't like being in charge of everything. So I have all these ideas, and I don't like to say that they're full songs, because I don't like to be the one to be like, yep, that's a full idea. That's a song right there. Like I'm super excited to like get together with Kevin and Jim and Andy and Tini and like, you know, and just like have new songs, because when did we record these songs? Like it's been almost 2 years ago, you know?
Yep.
And so that for me, that's like one of the, you know, a lot of people like being in bands for a lot of different reasons. You know, they like the shows, they like to hang out. You know, I really like for some people, this part may seem tedious, like the creative process, but that's like kind of one of the things that really gets me, uh, like really gets me into it. So I'm just like super excited to see where all these ideas that I've been working on and that I know that Jim, our other guitar player, has been working on, like we send stuff back and forth. So like, that's like a big one for me, but like, obviously, come on, we need to have shows again. Like it's insane. I'm not saying that we should do it prematurely, obviously, like when it's safe and everything like that. But like, once, like, I mean, come on, like once we're all hanging out again and like giving our buddies hugs and like,
I'm going to cry the whole time. I'm just going to cry.
It's just going to be like, like I think I'm wearing my like Mondays don't have to suck t-shirt on right now. Like, like Kevin, on my grade, I'm at Charlie's.
You're going to be happy again, Kevin, and people are going to be mad because you're not going to be writing any lyrics.
Yep. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well,
man, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I can't wait to be in a room with a bunch of our friends again. It's just like, it feels like it's not impossible. You know what I mean? Like it feels like something that could happen.
It's at the again. It's on the tip of everybody's tongue now. Everybody can taste it.
Yeah, like there was a time when it was like, am I ever going to go to a show again? Am I ever going to see and hug a friend again? Like, you know,
I have that song like half written, one for when we get back together.
Yeah,
I usually don't write stuff on my own, but like I have that song already written.
Preemptively in the bank. Oh, dude, we're gonna all be so stoked. Kevin Athis and Chris Dieso on the show with us tonight from Oh the Humanity. The latest release is self-titled and it's out everywhere now. You can find it on their Bandcamp, ohthehumanitymass.bandcamp.com. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a fucking pleasure chatting tonight, and I wish you guys all the best with this release, and we're all so stoked to hopefully get to see you guys play again soon.
Thanks, Jeff. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Thank you.